This time we want to welcome you to this broadcast. Your network is focused on Liberia, and the program you are watching is our Solution and Innovative series. It is a program which we do a lot of series shows on multiple topics. In this series, we are doing civic education, and we want to welcome you to the fourth episode of this civic education series. Again, my name is Anthony CA, hosting today. Welcome and welcome to the broadcast. Our panelists in this civic education series are Mr. Bartholomew Wesson and Aloysius Street. Folks, do us a favor by hitting that share button on our behalf so that other citizens of our country, Liberia, can be a part of this conversation. Civic education is very paramount in the existence of any country because it empowers the people of that country to know their rights and civil responsibilities. So that is our goal here. And rightfully, in this edition of the show, we are talking about your rights and responsibility. Our panelists will help to break it all down as best as they could. Our panelists are humans like yourself. They've done their research and they want to share their understanding of the topic. And so, folks, we can welcome you enough. Let me get back to my panelists here and welcome them quickly. Let me start with Mr. Aloysius Street. Aloysius, another edition. Welcome. How you feel?
Thank you so much once again for inviting me on the show. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right. Also, as a panelist and discussing in this ongoing civic education series is Mr. Bartholomew Wilson. Wilson, how you feel? Welcome. We ready?
Thank you. I'm fine, and I'm happy to be back.
All right, Mr. Bartholomew Wilson there. Okay, folks, we're going to go right away into our topics. For those of you who love this politics so much, today we are giving you something special that will empower you if you love politics so that you know how you talk the political talk. You got to know your rights, you got to know your responsibility before we can do that. So this is like an educational series, and I will encourage you to stay here and you will not be disappointed. Strictly, gentlemen, let's go into the issues. We are talking rights and responsibility. I would think let's start with our rights, right? And so let's get to you, Bartholomew. When we talk about rights of the Liberian citizen or any citizen of the country, but this time we're talking about Liberia, what are we talking about here?
And I like the way you put it. You know, so in terms of discussing rights, we are talking about Liberians, but also we're talking about Liberia. So anyone who resides in Liberia, whether you are a citizen or not, also enjoys some of these rights. And when we say rights, basically those are, you know, some of the fundamental, I wouldn't want to call it, it's not a privilege, you know, it's something that's been given to us by the Constitution, by virtue of our being, by virtue of our existence. Okay, it's not something that you have to work for to acquire. The mere fact that you are a human being, the fact that you are a Liberian, you have certain basic fundamental rights that are guaranteed under the Constitution. And those are the things that we'll be talking about. Of course, there are other rights, you know, which are not fundamental, but they are also important. We might talk about some of those also. But this idea does not only come about, it did not only come about from the Constitution. When you even look at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, you know, from the United Nations chapter, you realize that there are certain fundamental rights that the United Nations has recognized. Every human being under the sun who ever existed and who is currently existing has those fundamental rights. It can never be taken away from you. No reason whatsoever will take away those fundamental rights. So those are the things that we'll be talking about tonight.
All right, thank you. And Aloysius, let me come to you. From rights, we'll be going to responsibilities. Bartholomew actually gave us a synopsis of what the rights we're talking about are, the genesis, the sources of those things, those rights. Bring us to speed with responsibility of the citizen. You know, just a summary. When we are talking about responsibility of the citizen in this faction, what are we talking about?
So when talking about the responsibility of the citizen, what we are talking about what the citizen are responsible to do. For example, some of the responsibility for the citizen are to support and defend the constitutions. So what is mean by that? Defending what is in the constitutions and supporting what is in the constitutions. And if you see something that you don't like, it is also your responsibility. You know, it's set in the constitution, so to petition the government. So those are some of the responsibility of the citizens and what they can do to make the community better. There's also the responsibility to inform the representative of the communities and also to make the community better and the country better.
And I know we'll come to those, that will be the second segment, but since you are introducing that portion, are those responsibility divided into categories, like, for example, constitutional responsibility or civil responsibility or statutory? I mean, you've been trying to do research on the, are they in category or just straightforward?
Well, it's not protected in any category. So, for example, it is a citizen responsibility to participate in the democratic process.
Mm-hmm.
It's a citizen responsibility to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a citizen responsibility, to respect the rights and the beliefs of the constitutions and to support and defend, what the Constitution said. These are the citizen responsibilities. Citizens don't do that, which means that the Constitution will fall apart, and as the Constitution won't stand for what means, what it stands for, or what support what it says it does.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, we're getting started into our topic here. We're talking about rights and responsibility of the citizens or the residents of a country. This time we're talking Liberia. Let me come back to you, Bartholomew. Earlier, you introduced to us when we say rights of the citizen or the resident of any country. So let's go into them one by one if we can. What are one or two rights that you would like to share with us, and how important are they?
So, talking about the fundamental rights, okay, the basic rights.
Mm-hmm.
Every person under the laws has the right to life. Okay, for example, that's one of the basic rights. Every person has the right to life. Every person has the right to liberty. Every person has the right to security. And nobody should deny you or deprive you of those basic rights. Every person has the right to acquire property. Those are rights that should not be taken away from you. And the government has a responsibility to make sure that those fundamental rights are protected. Okay, whether in times of emergency, like now we have a state of emergency in Liberia.
Right.
The right to life cannot be curtailed. It cannot be deprived because of state of emergency.
Right.
The right to security cannot be deprived. Okay, so now you see the difference between what the Constitution means when it says fundamental rights. Okay, those cannot be taken away from you in any condition whatsoever. That's why they are fundamental. Of course, there are other rights that can be restricted in other situations, like in a state of emergency. But like you said, we'll talk more about that. Now, also in Article 11C of the Constitution, it says all persons are equal before the law, and they are entitled to equal protection. Now, in this section of the Constitution, there is no exception. It says all persons are equal before the law. Whether you are a legislator, whether you are a minister or the president or whosoever, the same rights and the same protection that is given to you under the Constitution should also be given to me as an ordinary citizen. It should be given to Aloysius, or it should be given to that lady in Yucatan, because the law does not favor anyone. Now, the first point I made about the fundamental rights, it says subject to such qualification as provided for in the Constitution.
Okay.
So it means the right to acquire property is subject to qualification, because not every person can acquire property in Liberia. But when it comes down to Section C of Article 11, it does not give any exception. So whether you are a Liberian, whether you are a foreigner, whether you are naturalized, whether you are natural born, whether you are from another country and you migrated to Liberia legally or illegally, you are entitled to equal protection under the law.
Thank you so very much. Let's come to you, Aloysius. So, Bartholomew talk about the fundamental rights and other rights, among which he emphasized equal protection. It does not matter your status in a country. Everyone is entitled to that equally. I think that is key. But what I want to bring to your attention is security, liberty, property, to run for office. Those are the kind of rights that the Constitution spell out. Any reason why the framers of the Constitution thought to make this list? Did they have any fear in mind in terms of protecting the stability of the country for which they have to list these things?
Yes, look, yes, I believe they did that because the reason why they say if you own a Liberian citizen can own property, due to the facts that the framer had in mind, they didn't want any invaders coming into the countries and owning properties. So those are the right that the citizen have. Let me also try to go to what article. Hold on one second. I don't know somewhere. Sorry, I did have lost my train of thought. Can you rephrase the question one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, so Bartholomew talk about some of the fundamental rights, talk about security, or liberty, owning of properties, and my question was, what were the framers thinking to lay these basic rights, naming some of them are fundamental rights? I mean, was it so to maintain stability in a country?
It was to maintain still be in the country, and also too for individual right to not be deprived. For example, individuals do have the right, to breathe free air, the right for fair trials. So those things were put in place by the framers, so everyone could have equal opportunity within society, and no other group or individual shall be shall be overpowering the other individual.
Thank you.
But
yeah, go ahead.
Also think about it. If this provision did not exist under the Constitution, okay, somebody could wake up early morning, say maybe a military personnel or a police officer, they could wake up early morning, and look at somebody because they have arms, they have access to weapon. They could take the life of anybody who maybe you and I engage into a disagreement or something. They could just shoot you, kill you. Okay, and that is why our forefathers wanted to make sure that we are all protected from such, violations of our basic rights. That's why they put it in the Constitution. But see where it is linked. The right to life, the right to property, the right to liberty, the right to protection, they are all linked to one concluding statement that says everyone is equal under the law. And the reason why it is done that way, because if you are a security officer, say you are a military personnel, or maybe you are the defense minister, and you decided to violate my rights, okay? And the law wants, the Constitution makes sure that whenever we get before the court of competent jurisdiction, we are judged on the basis of the merit of the matter and not on the basis of our position or our title, or not because one person is closer to the power that be. So that's the reason why they did it. And the idea was to make sure that all of those rights that were listed are protected under the law.
All right, thank you. Besides those rights that you named, what's about freedom of expression? You know, the right to run for office. Are there also rights that are guaranteed under the Constitution that the citizens need to know?
Yes, those are rights that in the Constitution it says in the laws, and those are rights that citizens should be taught in schools, and and those are rights that should be available to everyone, no matter your sex, your origin, your religion, your belief. We all are entitled, to our fundamental rights.
Again, folks, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our civic education series, and we are discussing the rights and responsibility of the citizen in Liberia as stipulated in our Constitution. Let me come to you, Mr. Wilson. People tend to get confused with voting as a right and also as a responsibility. Where do you stand?
I don't see any confusion in voting being a right and being a responsibility. Okay. Under the Constitution, you have your democratic franchise. That is a right. Okay, you have the right to express your opinion. And when we talk about freedom of expression, under freedom of expression under Article 15, it talks about also to express not just words, but also to express your opinion. Okay, and when you go to the polls to elect your official, that's a way of expressing your opinion. If I am not satisfied about how the country is being run right now, if I'm not satisfied about the current government, the way I express that opinion is to go to the polls and be able to vote the current government out of power. That is my right. Okay? Now, the responsibility there is to say that we as citizens, it is our responsibility to decide who governs our country. It is our responsibility to decide who becomes representative or who becomes senator. And that responsibility is exercised when we go to the democratic process and elect those officials. So that is our responsibility by electing them, but it is also a right that we have in expressing our opinion, our political opinion or democratic opinion.
Thank you very much. Let me come to you, Aloysius, and this question would be for both of you. Another right in the Constitution is the idea to assemble freely. I think the Constitution said at all time, at any time. And people think that citizens don't have that right or there are limitations. So my question is, what is the fine line? Because we've seen a series of protests recently, and other people argue that, oh, the way they're doing it is not the right way. Is there a way, according to our Constitution, that one or individuals can exercise this right of protest, to not go against the Constitution or maybe the rights of others, starting with you, Aloysius, and then Bartholomew.
Absolutely, yes. So in the Constitution, Article 17, I said that all persons at all time in orderly manner and peace, orderly and peacefully manner have the right to assembly, right, and to consult upon common good. So which means everyone can come together in assembly and petitions assemblies and discuss for common good to see what they can do if they don't like certain things. So it is in there in the constitutions, and so you do have the right to assemble, you do have the right to protest, and you do have the right to vote to change certain policies if you don't like what is there, if you don't know what the job is being done. But in order to vote, you have to be a citizen.
All right. Bartholomew, what's the fine line? Protest? Any limitation thereof, as we see in the Constitution that you know of?
Well, the thing is, although the Constitution didn't say protest, but protest could be the same as assembly. So I think the Constitution guarantees the right to assemble, but also, yes, I would say the Constitution has set some limitations. Because the first thing the Constitution says is that in an orderly, peaceable manner, that is a guideline. It tells you the only way this right can be protected if you assemble in an orderly and peaceful manner. What if people gather in a manner that is not peaceful and that is not orderly? Definitely, that will not fall under the provision of the Constitution. It will be outside of what the Constitution guarantees. Another line that has been drawn is that the purpose of that assembly, it should be to either petition the government, it should be to instruct the representatives, or it should be to consult on the common good of the people in order to get redress. So anything outside of those provisions is contrary to what the Constitution guarantees. So I think those are the lines that have been drawn and that we all need to respect. You know, those are the lines that we all need to respect. And mind you, also we have to understand that this particular right, to some extent, can be what I call, it can be curtailed. Okay, and the Constitution provides the ground in order to protect the security and peace of the state. Okay, and also when you read further down on Article 17, it says this includes the right to or not to associate. So it means as a Liberian, Aloysius has the right not to be part of your assembly. He has the right not to be part of your rally or your protest. And therefore, the right of Aloysius should also be respected, and the Constitution provides that the government should respect my right to assemble. It should also respect Aloysius' right not to assemble and to go about doing his normal activity. So we have to be aware of those demarcations as citizens so that we know, although we have rights, but we have responsibilities to respect the rights of others.
All right, then, hold on, sorry. My question then, sorry, my question then becomes, you know, because during these, what usually has been referred to as peaceful protests, and you said though the Constitution did not say protest, but some people are saying protest is synonymous to assembling, you know, as a group, or it may be an individual who decide to stand at a particular place to express themselves, which is one of the rights that we have as provided in the Constitution. What I'm getting to is that there are times people will say, why it's true the Constitution says you can assemble freely, but you have to obtain a permit. I don't see where in the Constitution there is that clause or requirement for you to obtain a permission from the state to do so. Why this is always in the mix? It say that the state too has a responsibility, just as a citizen has a responsibility. So provide some understanding there. Let's start with you, Aloysius.
So now, can you say the last part of the questions? I mean, the second last part, I didn't get that. Come on.
So the citizen have the right to assemble peacefully. But
Yes,
quite too often, people will say, though it is your right, you have to apply for a permit from the state before you can do so. Others are arguing, no, we don't necessarily have to do so because the Constitution does not require that. So we
absolutely.
know we're talking about, no, let me make it clear for you. You know, we're talking about rights and responsibility. And when we say responsibility, it's not just the citizen, it's also the state. So why are people making this point that you must obtain permits before you can assemble peacefully? Why is that so? Is that necessary or not?
Well, in a sense, I am on the both fence. It is necessary. First of all, the Constitution said you can peacefully assemble. Assemble means, my definition is a group of people coming together with a common good of interest and voicing a voice. When you voice your voice, I mean you're protesting. But at the same time, government officials don't want individual out there in the street, committing crimes. Yes, you have the right to protest, but you also have the right to respect property. You also have the right to, you also have the right to respect, the law of the land. But asking for a permit it's not necessary, but I understand why it is put in place for. But it's something that people have to. I think it's something that the citizens should vote on, but it's not something that should just be. You have to get a permit to do this. It's something that I don't agree with, but I understand what is in place.
And Bartholomew, is it because the state also has a responsibility to keep the peace, to protect life and property? Is that why they are like, okay, you need to let us know what it is that you want to do
Yeah.
so that they can provide security? But that is not required by the Constitution, though.
Yes. There is no requirement. There is no permit requirement under the Constitution to assemble. However, the Constitution requires that the rights of all citizens to be protected. And when you look in the governance structure of our country, the ministry that is responsible, the agency responsible to protect us is the Ministry of Justice. So the Ministry of Justice have come out with a regulation that will ensure the protection of both the rights of people who are assembling and the rights of people who are not assembling. That requirement by the Ministry of Justice is not in the Constitution. It is an administrative requirement. I like to say that I don't see it as a legal one, so to speak. I like to classify it as an administrative, operational requirement. And it is a good thing because the ministry, the government through the Ministry of Justice wants to make sure that when you get out on the street, there are going to be no interferences from people who will try to infringe on your rights. The Ministry of Justice also wants to make sure that you get on the street to voice out your opinion will not infringe on the rights of others. So I see that requirement as in good fit. However, if Aloysius and I decided that we're going to have an assembly, say for example, maybe at Anthony's house, or we're going to have an assembly, say maybe at our party headquarters. Okay, we have a political party. We want to have an assembly at our party headquarters. We do not need to write the Ministry of Justice for permits because the assembly at the party headquarters, in my opinion, does not in any way impede the movement of anyone. It does not impede the rights of others, so to speak. But if you were to march through the streets of Monrovia in order to be able to get to your party headquarters, you will be coming in contact with other people whose rights might be infringed upon by your expression of your rights. Therefore, you need to get a permit from the ministry so that the ministry can provide the twin model protection of both those who are going to assemble and those who are going about their normal activities.
Thank you. And so, Alasha, based on what Bartholomew has said, and based on your reading and the understanding you've been seeking in the civic education, he termed it as a necessary move administratively to protect both the people that are assembling and those who may not be assembling. And so my question here is, can you say that this is something that protects both parties, those who may be assembling and those who may not be assembling? That requirement of a permit, you think is intended to protect those two group of people during a protest?
Yes, I believe it is intended to protect both interests. In a reason like you don't want to impeach, someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time too, it's bothering me. A person bothering me that if I want to protest up with something, I have to go and ask for permissions. It's bothering me. I understand there's a restriction. There is a
requirement.
Requirement, but it personally do bother me. If I am not happy with how things are, I can't peacefully assemble or peacefully protest. I have to go and ask for permissions. Then you have to give me a certain date, and I have to do that the whole time. The reason why protest is for you to let your anger out, for you to because you are unhappy with certain situations. I don't get permission for somebody saying this is you need to be at this time, this, that, so that. It's bothering me. And I agree with it, but it's something that is just in place for the interest of everyone.
So I just wanted to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where the terminology permit came from. I don't know where that came from. Okay. Mm-hmm. I know initially when the whole idea about trying to inform the Ministry of Justice came about, the initial idea, in my opinion, it wasn't about permit. Because when you say permit, it means you want to get approval from somebody before you go ahead. No.
Okay.
The idea behind that is to notify. Okay, I think if you read the document, I think it's talking about notice, not permit. I will try to verify that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's talking about notice. Okay, so you have to give the government notice. Otherwise, you have to inform them, and they have to acknowledge receipt of your information, of your notification, and they have to assure you that they will provide you the security that you need. So that's the essence of that communication to the Ministry of Justice, to inform them of your plan and to request security and protection. Okay, so it's not like to say, I want to protest, will you allow me or will you not allow me? No, it's not like that. Because under the Constitution, you have the right to protest. Nobody can deny it.
Thank you for that clarity. And that brings me to this question. I myself, I am a protester. I have been part of a number of protests in the past, and you are right, or you were right when you said that, hey, if an assembly is about 2%, and in so much that it will not impede maybe the movement of others, then it's not necessary because the Constitution did not require that in the first place. But if in your judgment it will impede the movement of others, which becomes a violation of their right, that is why you want to, in your word, you're using the word now to notify the authority so that they can protect you to march freely and also provide similar protection that will not impede the movement of others, because the state responsibility is to protect the rights of all people at all times. And so my question here is that we're talking about the series of protests that I've been involved with, the war has been permit. And you just said that if it is permit, that means you are seeking approval before you can do what is being granted constitutionally. Even here in the US, I've been part of several protests, and when we apply, we say you have to apply for permit. That is, we are asking for an approval to do so. Yes, the Constitution does not say that, but again, I emphasize in as much as there's the number of people gathering. So what I'm saying here is that we should not be applying for permits. We should be notifying the authority that, hey, as provided in our Constitution to assemble at all time, we will be doing it at so and so place, just so you know. But what happens is sometimes the authority will say, no, you can't do it now. You can't do it this day because we don't have the logistics. So let me come back to you, Bartholomew. How do we find out or find line? Can I go, Lord, you know what? If you say you don't have the logistics, that is not my responsibility. The Constitution gave me the right. I'm protesting anyway. Can anybody do that and will not get in trouble?
Legally, legally, you can go ahead to have your protest, but you will be held responsible if anything went wrong.
Okay.
Okay, that's where you have to be. You have to understand, because the Constitution gives you the right to protest anytime, whether you get permit as you call it, or whether you notify the government or not. You can go ahead and have your protest. But if anything went wrong, if the rights of other people were impeded, if the movement of other people were impeded, if there were chaos, if there were looting, if things just went on the contrary, you will have to face the full weight of the law because you took matters into your own hands. On the other hand, if you notify the government, you're doing two things. You're notifying them, and you also asking for protection. And the government came back and said, well, we like to provide protection and provide protection to the other people, but we don't have the logistics to do it at this time, or we are not able to do it in this manner. We are suggesting that you do your protest this way. Okay? In my mind, that is a compromise, a reasonable compromise, because it will protect you, it will protect me, it will protect everyone. So it is not mandatory that you take the advice of the Ministry of Justice, but it is reasonable, it is appropriate that you follow their advice, because if you do not follow, if anything went on the contrary, you will face the full weight of the law.
So, but I have a question for you then, okay? So my question will be, because like I said, I totally oppose, the ideas of you even asking for notifications. So if you go out there, and protest, and get arrested, by the police, it's not also violating your right, because you're saying, you protest, even though you did not, looter or create a riot, all this thing, because you probably got arrested because the official don't like you, or they have some type of personal grudge against you, or they don't like the things that you are saying because they feel like you might influence on other individuals who might, go out there and create chaos. So should those be arrested for other people's action?
If you went out to protest and the police arrested you for being out there and protesting, it will be a violation of your right on one ground. And it may not be a violation of your right on another ground. How? If you went out to protest and your protest was in the main street, the street that leads from the Capitol building, for example, and goes to Broad Street, okay? That is a public road. If you put up your protest in the middle of the road, and I am not able to go to West Point, or I'm not able to go to Broad Street because of your protest, it means you are infringing on my rights. So that is an obstruction of movement. The police can arrest you. It will not be a violation of your right because you did not exercise your right within the ambience of the Constitution. But if you went out there to protest and you're not obstructing anybody's movement, you're not blocking any public road, you're standing on the sidewalk, you're holding your placard, or you're singing or you're dancing or whatever you're doing, The police cannot go and arrest you or remove you because you are not violating the Constitution.
Thank you. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia, and you are watching our civic education series. And today's topic is rights and responsibility of the citizens or resident of a country. And the country we're talking about is our country, Liberia. Gentlemen, I know rights and responsibility try to intertwine a little bit, some of them, not all of them. Let's come to the issue of responsibilities. So every citizen, just like any government, have a responsibility. And I know when Aloysia was doing his introduction of the responsibility component, he talked about it is your responsibility to serve in the military and provide defense for your country, to pay taxes. I think other responsibility are like to participate in the democratic process, and to serve when you are called upon. So, what are other responsibilities that you want to share, and then we can go into them? Let's start with you, Bartholomew.
I think Aloysius kind of listed, some of the fundamental responsibilities that we have as citizens. Because think about it this way: the only way your rights can be guaranteed if you also make sure that you perform your duty as required by the Constitution. For example, if you don't pay your taxes, there's no way the government is going to get money. And if the government doesn't have money, how is the government going to pay the police to provide protection for you? Okay? So that is fundamental. You cannot take one over the other. You cannot say my right to protection or my right to liberty or my right to movement is more important than the responsibility of paying taxes. They both have to go in pair. Now, under the Constitution, when we talk about freedom of expression, it says you have to also be responsible, okay, for whatever comes out of your freedom of expression. Whatever you say, you have to be responsible for that. If you made a statement, if I came up today and said, what you call it, the finance minister, I wouldn't want to say finance minister. Let me make it simple. If I came up today and say, one of the lawmakers are criminals, okay? Now, I have the right to say that. But I also have the responsibility to prove that under the law. Because I cannot come up blanketly and cast out allegations on a group of people, without that's a defamation of character, so to speak. So it is my responsibility to prove that under the law I could be called upon in a court of competence jurisdiction to provide evidence of my claim. If I say something about Anthony and it injures his character, he can take me to court and I should be able to prove it. So every statement you make under the freedom of expression, you have to be responsible for, the outcome thereof. You have to be responsible. So that's one of the responsibilities. Another responsibilities that you want to look at is in terms of what you call freedom of assembly. Another thing we talked about that already. Under the freedom of assembly guidelines or criteria set in the Constitution, you are responsible to make sure that you also protect the rights of others, okay, who are not going to assemble. So that's another responsibility that we have as citizens and that we have to respect. But I wanted to make a point, although we jump into responsibility, but there's something I wanted to say that most of the time we don't pay attention to, and it's very important.
Okay.
Every time I hear people will say freedom of expression, and people only focus on freedom of the press, freedom of the media, freedom to, assemble and petition your government. But under the Constitution, the freedom of expression includes the right for you to have access to the what? To telecommunication.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the right for you to have access to telecommunication, the right for you to have access to mail, the right for you to have access to telegram. And those cannot be denied, because if the people in Monrovia have access to communicate by mails, by telephone, and the people in Grand Cess in Grand Creek County do not have that access, it is an infringement of the rights of people in Grand Creek. Therefore, the government has the responsibility that all citizens enjoy the same rights under our Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You are right about that. Before I bring Alosha in, one of it is Article 15D, right? Access to state-owned media shall not be denied because of any disagreement or dislike of the ideas expressed. Denial of such access may be challenged in a court of competent jurisdiction. So you can't say because Anthony is opposition, so he cannot go to ELBC as a guest to express an opinion, because maybe the government of the day knows where Anthony stands, and Anthony may be going to say something that will maybe expose the government, why the government may be doing wrong. Any attempt to deny me is it will be a violation of my constitutional rights, and it is my right to appear on that state-owned media institution because I am a Liberian. It is good that you brought that up. Like you were saying earlier, and that's what I want to bring to Aloysius here. All the rights that we talk about, right to assemble freely, right to freedom of expression, they all come with responsibilities. They all come with responsibility because the Constitution said, if you want to protest, to assemble peacefully and orderly. Say at all times you can do it, but it got to be peaceful and got to be orderly. I think that is the responsibility component of it. Because if you get in the street and you are going contrary to what the Constitution says, then you will be held accountable. Because by then, you're not being responsible on that side. So, Aloysius, let me come to you. My question. And let me bring a different component in, which is it is your responsibility as a citizen to serve your country in any position in our country, whether you are a senator, whether you are, you want to be a president. The responsibility that comes with that right given to you as a citizen to serve is to do your work faithfully and without doing anything wrong. Today, we see leaders serving and they don't want to be held accountable. So talking about responsibility, why are they doing wrong by doing so?
Talking about responsibility. So what in the last part of the question, that why the leaders why the leaders should be held responsible for the action you said? That was the last part. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of the question.
Yes, so it is the right of any citizen, be it the president, legislators, to work in the Liberian government. But that right to serve in the government comes, or that right comes with responsibility. All right. So we now have to hold them accountable. How do they exercise this responsibility that come with it to meet the requirement as in the Constitution? I can just be president and just sit down to my house all day, or I can be a lawmaker and not go to work. I can just take my pay, right? Is that why it is? It doesn't. Those roles come with responsibility, and that's why I want you to throw light on.
Absolutely, and those will come with responsibilities, and also that will go up to Article 15. That's also they also fall into Article 15, Section B, and they talk about education. So that's one thing that we have the right to. We should be able to get educations, and that education, should not be denied. And we also should be able to have the right for like a library. It's also in Section B. They say, which is academic freedom. And those rights need to be, put in place so the citizens can know what what the government officials are doing, and so they can hold them accountable. If they are not doing the jobs or they are not, making changes. For example, education should be, a right to everyone. Everyone receiving the education within each district, each community has the education system like. How is living conditions like? It is the government responsibility to make sure that every citizen have a right and a responsibility and have access to like necessary things like food, water, electricity, and all these things. So those are the responsibilities of the politicians. Those are who are in office. It could be your mayor, your senators, your representative. Their responsibility is to provide the necessary service that we need in order for society to survive and for the country to manifest.
And so, same question to you, Bartholomew. As an
Yeah,
official in government, you are also a citizen, and that gives you the right to work in the government. That right you enjoy comes with a responsibility. So, for the understanding of our listener, though you are a citizen enjoying that right that comes with a responsibility, because you play a role in the government, that is an additional responsibility by the government to the citizen, right? So, how are these people supposed to behave to meet the responsibility given to them as a government and as individuals?
but the first thing is before you, I mean, before you even get elected or appointed to a position, you take an oath, right?
Right.
You go before, when you are elected, before you take office, you take an oath. When you are appointed and you go before the legislature, the Senate for confirmation, you take an oath. Okay? What that oath is doing is that you are providing assurance that you will perform in that capacity as required and that you will serve in the interest of the people because you are employed by the people. So as lawmakers, let me use them as an example. You take an oath that you are going to perform your three cardinal responsibilities. Those are to make laws, to represent, first of all, to represent your people, to make laws, and to provide oversight so that the citizens can benefit the goods of the land. And if you fail on those responsibilities, then it is a betrayal of the trust that have been reposed in you. And it is also a neglect of your right to be elected to serve. Because the Constitution gives you the right to serve. But then it also provides that you have to perform your responsibility. So when you fail to perform your responsibility, in other words, you are giving away the right to serve. Therefore, the people can remove you. Okay? Therefore, you can be dismissed in that position. So the rights are not absolute. That's what I said. One cannot be prioritized over the other. Rights and responsibility, they go in hand, go in pair. If you fail on one end, it's going to affect the other end. So if you don't live up to your expectation as the president to provide security for the land and make sure that you respect the Constitution and better the lives of your people, then you are also forfeiting that right to serve, that right to serve. Therefore, you can be removed by the people.
And Bartholomew, I like the way you put it. It is your right to run for office and when elected to serve, but on the basis that you will do or execute the responsibility for which you were elected. And you went further by saying it is on that promise that you made for which you, take oath, all right, that you will discharge the duties of the office of blah, blah, blah. And now that you are not doing so, and it becomes glaring to the citizens, do the citizen have a responsibility at that point where the person in whom they trusted is not performing according to their wishes and aspiration? What becomes the responsibility of the citizens?
The responsibility of the citizen become then they can use the power to vote. That's a responsibility by going to election poll. So when election day come, then they can decide like, okay, this person went into office, and these are some of the promises he said he was going to do, and this is what the Constitution said he was going to do. Based on the Constitution and based on what he said, it seemed like his job performance wasn't aligned according to what is written. So as a citizen, it is a responsibility to go out there and vote for, and doing elections. But it is also the government responsibility to also teach, civic educations like voting right and all these things to a citizen so they can know and be prepared how to make the right decision.
And Bartholomew?
There are two, yeah, I agree with Aloysius, and there are two remedies under the Constitution. If elected or appointed officials, although the appointed officials, they serve by the will and pleasure of the president, okay? But the Constitution also gave the legislature the Oversight Authority. So what that means is if Aloysius, as the Minister of Finance, is not performing his duty as required, the lawmakers who have oversight in over the Ministry of Finance can therefore intervene. Though the minister serves at the will and pleasure of the president, they can pass a vote of no confidence in that minister. Okay, that can be done. They cannot dictate to the president who to appoint and who not to appoint. But they confirm that minister, they can also pass a vote of no confidence in that minister. In other countries, what I've seen that people do is that they might withhold allocation to that ministry. If money was paid to the Ministry of Public Works and Minister Mambuti Nyempa did not deliver on those allocation, the national legislature can withhold allocation to the Ministry of Public Works in the next fiscal budget until the minister can provide evidence of the execution of what was approved. So that's how the legislature exercises the oversight. That's how the citizens, because the representatives, they represent us. So we speak through them. Okay? The other way under the Constitution is by going to election and passing a vote of no confidence in the legislature as well. We as citizens, we can pass a vote of no confidence by voting them out of power. So once we vote them out of power, it is an expression of a vote of no confidence in the legislature. So it is two things. Either you want us to pass a vote of no confidence in you, or you have to pass a vote of no confidence in the minister so that you keep your job. Okay? But if you don't perform, if you don't do your job, we have to do it for you. We, the citizens, we have to do your job for you as a senator or as a representative. And the way we do your job for you is to pass a vote of no confidence in you.
All right, let me come to this, to the both of you. Article 1 sometimes becomes debatable when it comes to the people playing their role when it comes to responsibility. All power is inherent in the people. All free government are instituted by the authority and for their benefits, and they have the right to alter and reform the same when their safety and happiness so require. There are others who argue that the citizens can decide, look, though we elected you 3 years ago now, for example, or 4 years ago now, you are not serving us according to our wishes and aspiration. We are not happy, and we have the right to alter you. Some people argue that, look, you have to do it through election. That is what the Constitution said. That's the defined way the Constitution spelled out in changing your leaders if they're not doing according to your will and pleasure. Others are saying no. That article is not telling you about election. Did you hear anything called election then? The article said when you're not dissatisfied, you can alter. That alter means you can change it. So some people try to use this to assemble peacefully and orderly and telling the government, say, you know what, we can tell you to calm down. After all, it's our right to express ourselves whatever we feel. Is there any conflict here? Let me start with you by telling me, is there any conflict here?
Is there anyone? I didn't get that.
Any
Sorry.
conflict, any confusion with the understanding of the Constitution? All power is inherent in the people, so the mayor is not performing. Look, it is our right to protest, to demand, to petition. We are petitioning you, or calm down. Would they be doing anything wrong? Other people will say, yes, you're doing something wrong. You can't ask a democratically elected government to step down because they were elected. The only way you can change that government is to go to election. So is there any confusion here in this particular clause looking at election as well?
No, I see no confusion in the Constitution. I see confusion in the minds of people and the way they understand the Constitution.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Article 1, as you rightfully quoted, says, in such a manner as provided for. I'm just paraphrasing, but it says in such a manner as provided for under the Constitution. You can change, you can alter your government, you can force your representative, your senator, your president to leave power, if you so desire. But in such a manner as provided for under the Constitution. Under our Constitution, what is the mechanism of removing public officials from power? There are only two ways. There are only two ways as per the Constitution. The first way is through election, the democratic process. The other way is through impeachment. Okay? So those are the only two mediums through which you can alter your government. Now, when people protest, the people are not necessarily calling for the government to step. They shouldn't be calling for the government to step down, actually.
Why? What is wrong
with that? What they should be doing is to raise those issues that need to be, because the Constitution says for redress. It doesn't say to get them out of power. If you read Article 15, I think so. It says for redress. That's the conclusion. To assemble, to express their opinion, to petition the legislature for the common good, for redress. Okay? It did not say so that the people will step down or so that you change the government. The only two ways you can change your government, people have to understand, because we got about law, is through elections or through impeachment. Now, there is a back channel that you can use. The back channel here is, if we believe that the president, for example, the president of Liberia is corrupt, and we have evidence that the president of Liberia is corrupt, the Constitution provides that the president of Liberia can be impeached for corruption. Okay, that is a provision in the Constitution. It's there. We can petition our legislators. We can petition our representative to bring forth a bill of impeachment against the president. Because we cannot wait for 6 years to expire. We think that 6 years is just too much for us to live with the crime that has been committed by the president. The violation of our Constitution, we say we cannot live with it for 6 years. Therefore, we are going to petition our representative to pass a bill of impeachment against the president. That's the back channel. Okay? Other than that, we just have to wait for 6 years. We cannot do it by getting on the street and saying, president must calm down, president must step down. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and also to add on that too, he said the key word petitions. And the definition of petition is a formal written request. Not going there and saying, oh yeah, I want the president to step down. A formal written request, which you were send to your representative, and then they will have to act based on that. If not, if your representative don't act based on our petitions, now when re-elections come, that's when you can decide to keep them out of office. They can't decide to resign, but they can choose not to. It's not saying that, oh, you have to resign. They can decide to do that, but they don't have to. So the other way we can remove or redress, or redress our senator is by voting them out, which is the redress. Like now, you bring us on a different email and remove them out of office. To voting and choose petitioning the president to step down.
So,
and I have to go.
Yeah, you said there are two ways, either through impeachment or an election. Is the way the people, those are the two ways the people can change uh, a government if their government is not serving according to their wishes and aspiration. What about the right the Constitution gave for the citizen to express themselves? And one of that expression can be that you acknowledge that you can say, "Oh, Anthony, calm down," or "Mr. President, calm down," but even though it comes with a responsibility when you do so, because if what you're saying is wrong, you can be held accountable for that particular statement. But the point I'm making is, if the people in number assemble peacefully and orderly as spelled out in the Constitution and use their right to freedom of expression by asking their elected government to say, you know what, we need you to go because what you're doing, we're not feeling it. And that government agree that, okay, if you think I'm not doing a good job, I'm stepping aside. In that case, will you say that the people change the government in an unconstitutional manner because you only talk about two here that you argue or propounded that the Constitution talk about?
Yeah, usually that won't happen in the sense that it's a court of revolt. You are revolting against the government, against yes, actually your government and your country. If you just go in the street and then demand and say, "Oh, I want you to step down," and once you are doing that, you are also abandoning your responsibility to the election process and also to assembling and petition and also freedom of speech or freedom of press. You are leaving on the sideline. You are taking a different route, which is you are deciding to revoke because you want that individual to step down immediately, and they don't step down. What the next step you are going to what's going to happen if they don't step down?
But
That's the
I'm
question.
not sure. I thought you listened to my scenario. The scenario I drew for you is the people are orderly, they are peaceful, and they are just making a formal request verbally to their elected government to say, we don't feel you serving our best interest, so we want you to leave. The Constitution provided that to assemble, it must be peaceful and be orderly. So they are doing it peacefully and orderly. The Constitution also gave them the right to freedom of expression. They are expressing dissent to the government performance that please just leave us alone. And I'm saying if the government submits to say, okay, if you think what we're doing is not good enough and you're asking us to leave, we are leaving. Do you call that a revolt?
But realistic.
Sorry, go ahead, Alash.
No, go ahead.
Let me say this, Anthony. I like the way you put it, and that's being hypothetical. But let's look at the both sides. If the people gather and say, "Well, we don't like our government, or we don't like our president, Mr. President, we don't like you. I mean, we don't like the things you are doing. Not happy with them. We want you to step down." Okay, that is a request. Whether they wrote it down or they said it verbally, they have said it. Okay, now it is left with the president to say, okay, the things that the people saying, I agree with them. I think it makes sense. Therefore, I'm going to resign. If the president does that, there's nothing wrong with it. In as much the president was not placed under duress. Let me say that. Okay, because when you pressure the president to resign, it means you are violating the democratic tenets as required by the Constitution. The president should never be pressured to resign. The president or the senator or the representative might want to resign, that should be on a voluntary basis or on the basis that they realize they have failed the people and therefore they want to do what is expedient. So there is no pressure for that. Okay? But where you set some ultimatum, for example, if you set ultimatum and say, Anthony, you know what, you are a leader, when you resign. If you don't resign, we'll not leave yet. Or if you don't resign, you will not come down from the office. Or if you don't resign, you will not step your foot out of your car. That is a kind of pressurizing the leader to do what he would not have done ordinarily. Okay? And that is against the Constitution. The Constitution does not permit that. Now, let me ask this hypothetical question. I know people have brought up this argument. This is what I told you. The president of Liberia, let me use Liberia as an example because we're talking Liberia. The president of Liberia, as per the Constitution, can only be elected by 50% plus one vote in an election. It means more than half of the people who took part in that election will have to agree for that person to be elected president. If you come on the street, say maybe during the past election, you have 1 million people or 700,000 people that elected George Weah as president. When you have 20,000 people come on the street and say, we want the president to resign, are you saying those 20,000 voices represent the 700,000 plus people that elected the person? That is wrong. That is completely wrong. And that's why our forefathers were wise when they said the only way to change a government is through election, because it is through election that you actually know, you hear the individual voices of people. Okay? Not by 10,000, 50,000 people come on the street, or even 100,000 people come. If 100,000 people came on the street today and say they don't want George Weah to be president, their voices are illegitimate to render him powerless to be president because they do not represent the majority that elected. That's the idea behind the Constitution when it says only through election. And we have to respect that because we have to respect the voices of others who elected that person to be president. If we don't go by what is required by the Constitution, it means we are not respecting the voices of the other people. We only respecting our opinion. What about the opinion of others? If the 10,000 people that don't want him to be president, it said only their opinion that counts. What about the opinion of the other 700,000 people? Okay, so I think the Constitution was right, but the Constitution is always right when it says there are only two ways, and the democratic way is the best way to do it.
Thank you. So then that brings me to this final point about responsibility. So the people have to bear the responsibility of their decision. For example, if you elect a government for 6 years and that government turned out to be something that you voted for, are you saying that your number one responsibility there is to just wait and enjoy the fruits of your decision for that 6 years period? And that is your responsibility, and then get angry and get in the street? Is that the point you're making here? And that the citizens don't have any other avenue? All of them may be asking their lawmakers to impeach the president just in case maybe the president, maybe carry on corruption or any other impeachable offenses, and that's the only options they have?
Well, yes, that is the only option they have because that is written in the constitutions. And if we are going to hold the government accountable, for violating certain things, we should also be held accountable for our responsibility and our right. Our rights are for us to vote, for us to assemble peacefully, and for us to petition the government. And our responsibility is also for us to vote in an electoral process, by which means you vote the individual out when election season comes. Let me give you an example. Let's say if you're not elected, like the probably elected John, and then 20,000 people don't like John, and they go out in the protest, and then take John out of office. That's called revolt. You are overthrowing your government, and then you are overthrowing your government. Once you overthrow your government, the next powers that come in office is not going to follow any democratic principle. Now they're going to try to change the constitutions or alter the constitutions to fit their belief and their responsibility. So it is a citizen's responsibility to just sit and wait peacefully. And when re-election comes, that's when you talk to your friends to go out there and vote. That's when you talk to your family member and be like, hey, this is what the person is doing. So that's where we need to educate our citizens on the importance of voting and the importance of getting involved in your community. Know what is going on. Get involved, become a community leaders, become a local politician for your community. That's how you go to make the changes, by waiting for the time to over and then remove that person from office.
Finally, Bartholomew, the same question. So your responsibility is, if you make a decision, if it is not going right, beside the two options, you just have to wait. Even if you're not getting food to eat from morning to night, and your other options, which is that your lawmakers will impinge and it's not working, then you just have to keep being hungry, even if that hunger will kill you, and keep waiting for that next election, right?
I like the way you put it. I like it. Exactly. That's what it is. I like it. That's the simplest explanation for it. You have to be responsible for your actions. Okay? You have to be responsible for your actions. And whether you like it or not, I mean, you can express that you're hungry. You can express you don't have food to eat. You can express that your children can't go to school, but you can't do anything about it. The only way you can do something about it unless you go to elections again. Okay? So people need to understand this. And that's why when you go to elect people, your decision should not be on the basis of today. Your decision should be in anticipation of the next 5-6 years to come. What is going to happen? Where do I expect to see this country? What kind of changes do I expect to see? Can this person bring those changes? Can this person deliver, those goods that I want to see? If any of those answer is no, then you have to rethink, because 6 years is not a short time. It's not a short time, so you cannot. And most of the time, the decision that people make like this, most of the time, it's on the basis of relationship. It's on the basis of affiliation and what they perceive to be trust. Oh, I trust Alosha, man. Alosha always here with us. I'm closer to Alosha. If he gets elected as senator, probably he will give me a job in your office, or he will give my daughter a scholarship. Those are the kind of things that drive our decision. Or maybe, my brother closer to the party. Somebody, so my brother is an official in the CDC party. I'm an executive member of the CDC party. If CDC wins, I'll be appointed. I'll get job. I will employ my brother and sister, or I'll get job for my relatives. And that's how we make our decision. Now, when it does not go our way, we come back and say we're disappointed. Most of the time, you hear people, they're quick to get disappointed. And the reason why they're quick to get disappointed because they trivial things. They vote on the basis of triviality and not on the basis of substance. So we have the mindset of people. Aloysius may be my brother. If I believe that he cannot, if I believe that Aloysius, who is my brother, cannot deliver for this district, there is no point of running behind Aloysius to be represented. That's not the only way I can help him. As a brother, I should tell him what is right. So I think I like the way you put it, Anthony. That's the only thing.
And so, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is our civic education series, and we are discussing rights and responsibility of the citizen or any resident in a country. This time, we are talking Liberia. Aloysius, responsibility, responsibility, responsibility. My final question here. In terms of decision making, how can a voter be responsible? What should they be looking for owing to the fact that that decision they're making, it is not only for themselves today, but tomorrow and also their children. How can a voter be responsible? Because when they cast that ballot, it will be for sales here. How can a voter be responsible?
But voters are responsible by knowing who the candidates are and by researching who the candidates are, what they stand for, what their agenda, what their policy. It is a voter responsibility to know that. Do the voter have the resources to know the information? No, that's not a discussion we can have. But it is also the voters' responsibility to just look, to just believe in the process and think about tomorrow, because the individual who you are voting today, it's not going to give, need to better your community and build schools and all this things. So elect them based on the policies, I believe, and the agenda.
So Bartholomew, what questions should a responsible voter be asking? What are the questions they should be asking? What are the things they should be looking for in the candidates that will represent them or that they are trying to vote for?
It's kind of simple. First thing is, it's complex, but it is simple in a sense. You have to know what is the agenda, what is the platform of this candidate. Why do they want to be your representative? Why do they want to be your senator? Why do they want to be your president? Okay, and on what basis should you hold them accountable? So they will have to present something to you and say, well, I'm going to be your president or your lawmaker because of X, Y, and Z. Say, when I believe that our country or our district have been behind, they would make a lot of promises. I understand that. But those promises should not be verbal. They should present a platform. They should present a platform. And their platform should be time bound. Not just saying when you elect me, I will make a play out of a city, or when you elect me, I will change your life and make sure that you be like somebody who been living in America for the last 100 years. It should be on the basis of achievable, deliverables. Okay, if you elect me as a representative within the first 2 years, I will try to make sure that this district has a hospital by putting money in the budget to build a hospital. One, the man gave us what he wants to do. He also told us when he's going to do it. He also told us how he's going to do it. Those are the three cardinal things. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? And how are you going to do it? Okay? Anybody who can answer those three questions in an honest way, that person deserves your confidence. But not somebody bringing football, bag of rice, a carton of drinks, and say they can't identify with you. Or somebody distributing loan money. So, the new idea in Liberia, because when you change US dollars, the Liberian dollar rate is so high, the rate is so low. So what happens is that you change 2,000 US dollars, you almost hit $1 million Liberian dollars. Okay? So somebody come up today, they say, okay, they give me loan to the market with $1 million loan. It sounds so big. And people start to run behind that. And they elect me because I gave them 2,000 US dollars, which is equivalent to $1 million Liberian dollars. And on the basis of that, people elect somebody who will never look back at the district or the county or even the country for the next 6 years. It doesn't make sense. So we have to look at those things that we can hold people accountable for. They should give us a timeline, and they should give us a roadmap of how they're going to achieve what they say they're going to do. Other than that, there's no need of wasting my time.
All right, folks in cyberspace. On that note, that is how we will come to the end of the broadcast. We are now 1 hour 30 minutes gone. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you for sharing your understanding on the rights and responsibility of the citizen, especially talking about Liberia. I will now take a closing statement from each of you. Aloysius, we talk about rights, we talk about responsibility. Close us. How can should we be looking at these things from all that you have shared?
Well, I would say responsibilities. Citizens should get involved in the community, especially get involved in the communities, like start running for local positions and start organizing your community, like civil educations. Those are the responsibilities, and those are someone's right to get involved in your community and make differences. Educate the citizen on the right things to do. I also say it is also the government responsibility to provide educational libraries, and those are things that the government is lacking, and it's a citizen responsibility to pressure the government, be like, hey, it is written in the Constitution for me to have an education. It is a economic and it is a fundamental right, and I need this right now, and it need to be put into place. So go back to elections. If a candidate is running for elections, you got to focus on the agenda, the campaign, the message, the previous policy, and what law they have passed, what they have planned for the future, what they have planned for that district, and it is and also it is a citizen responsibility to make sure that that representative who they elected come back and do what he said, what his campaign said he was going to do. If not, then you remove him from office when re-election come around.
All right, and Bartholomew, what's your parting statement? We talk about rights and responsibility. What the people need to know. What you want to leave with us?
I just want Liberians to, change their mindset. Like, I want people to get involved in understanding their own constitution. I know the government, okay, not today. I mean, since Liberia was founded, the government has failed in providing the constitution to the people so that they understand their rights and responsibilities, because it needs to be taught at different schools, but that is not done. So the government has failed in that aspect. Okay, but we as citizens, we should know these things for ourselves, so that people can just come to us and try to deceive us, and out of ignorance, we run behind them. I said to Liberians, stop running behind politicians. Stop running behind political parties. Look for agenda. Rather than looking for political parties, look for agenda. Rather than affiliating yourself with political parties, affiliate yourself with political agendas. That's what you should do. If this agenda does not suit what I am looking for in the future of Liberia, I'm not going to affiliate myself with it. That should be the basis of your decision. Okay, so please, we have to do it, because unless we change things around, we're not going to change our country. We got to change our mindset. And I like the way Dr. Lawrence Booker put it. Change your mind, change your attitude, and Liberia will change. Okay, so thank you. Maybe another time I would like for us to talk about some controversial issues, but very important. We can talk about citizenship, and we can also talk about freedom of religion. It's very important. The last time I know you hosted our brothers from the Muslim community,
Right.
and they have some serious issues. So I want us to talk about it a little bit, what the Constitution says there, but maybe next time we'll talk about it.
Thank you. Let me read a few comments here, gentlemen, so that we can close it up. Gerald Roberts, right? No, brother, the people. Oh, sorry, my mouse trick here. No, brother, the people put him there, and the people get the right to remove him. Talking about the president, in this case, any president. What planet these guys? I think what planet he meant? What planet these guys coming from or living? I think that's why he meant to say the same, Jerome. Jefferson Day say, can you quote the portion or portions of the Constitution we allow the citizen to protest and ask their government to step down instead of election? You are confusing yourself. Peaceful assembly is different from unconstitutional remover. All right, few comments there from our followers here at Facebook. Folks, the phone lines were open all along, and many of you were enjoying the education, and so you thought not to call. On that note, this is how we'll come to the end of this broadcast. we brought you civic education, the rights and responsibility of the citizen, and as well the responsibility of the government. We believe here at Focus on Liberia, as a citizen, you must know your rights and your responsibility. These two things are very important in having a functional government. Because when the people know their rights and they know their responsibility, they will be able to hold the government accountable. My question to you is, who are you expecting to hold your government accountable? The very government herself? If you are thinking that way, I have something for you. You are screwed. To you, the citizens, if you are depending on the government to hold itself accountable, I repeat, you are screwed. It is your right, it is your responsibility to hold your government accountable to do that which you elected them to do. That is the essence of this civic education, to know your rights and to know your responsibility thereof. So that when your government is working for you, you will know that your government is working for you. And when your government is not, you will also know, and then you will be in the right position to criticize. But if you don't know any of these things, then why are you talking about? Mr. Citizen, Mr. Citizen, are you there? Are you hearing me? I'm saying civic education is key to understanding the government that you elected, the government that you are looking up to provide you the basic social services, education, healthcare. Some people will argue these things are your right. Are you getting them? Do you know they are your right in the first place? Well, I don't want to bore you too much with my monologue. I'm saying to you, yeah, I focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. And we brought you civic education for you to know your rights and responsibility. I have a song for you, and it says, we are all Liberians, and Liberia is our home. Listen to that song for 1 minute. Maybe you will pick up that constitution. I have my copy here. I read it religiously. You need to get your copy and read it before you open your mouth to say your representative is not doing his job. Do you know your right? Bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.